Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of Origin Story. Jess and I have actually already been on quite the journey, and we're excited to continue it. We were feeling into what desired to really be spoken about today. What is the thread of energy that feels most alive? And we came up with many beautiful subjects to speak to you about, and then realized that none of them were that. And actually, the one that wanted to be spoken to is the most obvious one that we had avoided at all costs, which is accepting the mission. What does that mean? Like accepting the mission of like what we're actually here to do on this planet. Who we're here to be in accordance with our most authentic selves, our most dharmic paths and truths, in accordance with devotion, with being of capital S service. And last episode, we spoke to how challenging the energies have been. And that's because what's coming up lately is all this density to push through any of the woundings, any of the pieces that have been percolating in the background, waiting to emerge and be transmuted from dense to light, because it can't come with us wherever we're going, which is the mission and the path of deep devotion and service. So it makes sense that we'd want to talk. Well, we wouldn't. It makes sense why we wouldn't want to talk about this because both Jess and I have had deep resistance to talking about any of this or even accepting the mission at all. Because to be quite honest, it's so obvious and it's so easeful and it's so simple. It feels stupid, stupidly easy. Like, why would we do that? Why would we do the thing that we were born to do? That's confronting, it's too easy, and like, I don't want to do it. But actually, it's the path of least resistance if we can get ourselves in flow with it and just get on with it, choose it, be it, breathe it, live it, and stop resisting it anymore. So, for those of you who are on the starseed service path, you're in good company if you too are avoiding the mission because here we are, not doing the things, and it's time.
It is definitely time. And if you're not aware of what avoiding the mission looks like, avoiding the mission looks anything like thoughts in your head that are like, I really just want to find my purpose work. I really just want to be in my purpose work. I really want to be of service. And it can look like a lot of flip-flopping and being like, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. Oh, I'm definitely meant to be doing this. And then questioning if that is in fact the case. Um, so that's what that looks like a lot of the time. That's what it
Right.
has looked like for
It's
me for quite some years at this point.
well, I know for me too, I will be like, dear God, please, and like I'm in prayer, I'm like, please send me a sign. And then like God sends a sign and God says, this is the thing. And I go, yeah, no, that doesn't seem clear enough. I'd love a signier sign and I'd love for you to make it really, really clear. And then so God sends another sign and I'm like, yeah, but not that. So let's try it again. I need the signiest sign. Let's pick more oracle cards. Let's ask more psychics. Let's do more tarot readings and astrological readings and whatever it is I need to do, because clearly the thing that keeps coming up again and again and again can't be the answer. That can't be it. So literally, I've been getting the signiest of signs to the point where it's like Vegas style, bright, shiny, flashing lights. Like, here's the answer, Hannah. And God is, and like fairies are just like, are you paying attention? And I'm like, I guess I can't not pay attention anymore because I guess this is it. Oh, I guess I'm getting the signiest of signs. I'm not allowed to ask for it anymore. Whoopsies. So
Yeah. Like basically
Yeah.
receiving everything short of like a personally addressed email with a written list of instructions, right? It's like,
Right.
oh,
I'm
maybe
still
at this
waiting.
point I can't ignore it anymore.
Right. I'm like, can I have my Hogwarts letter? And God's like, I've basically sent you the equivalent of 111 Hogwarts letters. Get over yourself. Get the fuck over yourself and get on with it.
Oh my goodness. So I've been definitely realizing recently that I think one of the I don't want to call it like a spiritual community lie, but I definitely want to call it like a program. And I actually honestly thought I had moved past this time and time again. Like on some level, I knew this cognitively to a certain degree. I'd worked through aspects of this, everything else, but there there was always still, and I realized this yesterday, there was still this program running in my being that was the question of what am I meant to be doing? And it was holding this frequency of kind of, it didn't necessarily feel disempowered, but actually from the place I'm in today versus yesterday around this, I'm looking back at this and I'm like, this question of what am I meant to be doing? Well, it's not, empowered. It's not coming from empowered choice. And it's actually almost even coming from what we were talking about in the last episode around victim consciousness and everything else. So this is what's really purging through our systems at the moment is all the victim consciousness has to go. And so I've been happily trying to, well, happily, I say happily, I've been trying to launch this program that's all about connecting to God and coming home to the beloved and la 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 la, because for years and years and years and years, there's been this deep yearning to invite people to connect to divinity in a deeply personal way, because that's been transformative to me. What I'm realizing today, which is really funny to me, is I would get into that state of being. And I didn't put two and two together. So I'm going to say this for everyone who's listening who needs to know this about your purpose and your mission. When I would get into that and be like, I really just wish I could spend all my time getting people connected to God, to the divine, and make that the focus, I was always in like a collapse state every single time, because I would be like, I would end up really sad, like crying about it, being like, oh my God, all I really want to do. So I thought everything else I was doing was like a mask or faking it. And like I was avoiding the real thing, which was this connect people to divinity and prayer. Looking back now, I'm like, oh, don't do the thing that you come up with when everything feels too much and you're second guessing yourself and like doubting what you're doing. That frequency is the victim consciousness. It's like, oh, I can't do it. I just want to connect people to God. I don't want to have to deal with the rest of it. So this shift in empowered choice out of like, there is no what you're meant to be doing, but there is, but there's also not. I guess it's like this thing of like, actually it's what you choose. And that's really what I'm excited about, what I've come into. It's like the power of choice, conscious choice is really incredible and really, really, really transformative. But the thing is, it's what's been the hardest has been choosing the easy thing. And as part of all this wave that I was moving through yesterday, where I'm like, I actually feel like I have to step away from that program again, which is actually almost embarrassing to like pull another program, because I've done this a few times, but it's like clearly I've not been getting the fucking message. I've not been getting the lesson, but at least like I've gone there with the deepest thing that was always going to be lingering in the back of my mind that I could collapse into. Now, if I pull this, I'm like, I can't collapse into that anymore because I know it's not the thing. And that was like the bottom of the fucking barrel. That's the only lingering thing that I was like, maybe I should be doing that. So it's like, cleared that one, tried it. It's not the thing. La, la, la. And in this kind of wave that I was in with this yesterday, I was chatting with a girlfriend about it. She was like, why are you avoiding this? This actual mission that you keep coming back to, that keeps being shown to you, that you literally can't get away from, even if you try. Why is it that you keep avoiding it? And I sat there and like really felt into my body and asked for the words. And then I just burst out crying. I was like, because it's too easy. It's actually too easy. It's too obvious. And if it's too easy, it means that I'm not being of enough service in the world. And it means that I'm not doing enough. And so I'll look everywhere else, in everything else, to look for struggle, to look for things that are more difficult, to look for, oh, it must be something else. So the avoidance of what is the most natural, the most obvious, the most easy. I know we hear this, right? Like, I know we hear this time and time again. It's like the thing that is the easiest for you and the most clear and that you have the most experience in, that you're most embodied in, that you talk about all day, every day. What does every conversation come back to? Like, no, 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 but that's too easy. I've heard this many times. Yet in practice, it's like I'll go into it and I'm like, oh no, wait, no, nope, nope. I could actually be really successful doing that. No, let's not. Nope, run away. Let's go do something else. Let's collapse back into a victim frequency and be like, life is terrible. It's all hard. Blah, blah. It's so much easier to be in that than just in like the easy thing that I was built for. Like,
Well,
wild.
it's 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 the fear of our own power, right? Of our own God essence. And this is, we kind of touched on this, I feel like, in a way in the last episode too, where most beings feel most confronted. It's harder to accept light and love and bliss and ecstasy and joy than it is to accept the shadow. Like this, and don't get me wrong, shadow is challenging to accept. That's a different experience of the journey that we take into, descension into ascension. But for me, what I've been realizing is to really truly own and see, like take the blinders off and see not only where I've had the most success, like on the physical plane with being received in the ways that I want to be received and the ways that I know that I'm meant to be received. And because I've done so many readings and I've had so many, chart readings, everything, every fucking person, both, of the seen realms and the unseen realms, point to this one thing. It feels challenging for me to accept that this is actually what I'm supposed to do because it requires me to be in a space of empowerment of self. And I love that you brought this up and connected it back to victimization because it's that. It's literally that. It's that, wow, my power is so easy to get to and access. I can't be in that all the time. That feels very intense in my system. Why would I choose that all the time? It's a lot easier to be like, woe is me, nobody gets me, and everyone rejects me, and I can't do this. And it's like, it is. Because to do the thing we were built and born to do, you know, that's that's heeding the call. That's heeding the call to our own greatness and highest self. The spiritual community loves to talk about be your highest self, connect to it. What if you already are it and you just have to take, the veil off and finally just realize it?
Yeah.
Well, shit, now I have no more excuses. Well, what am I supposed to do now? Now that I don't have excuses, what am I supposed to do? Now you do the thing. Now you have to do the thing. Crap. There's no other answer. All right, I must do the thing now, and it's and yeah, there's that heaviness, that density of like having to be the martyr and like I have to be of service. And what does it look like to be of service? Like that's another piece that in the 3D matrix reality and even the spiritual matrix reality, there's stories of like, what does it mean to be of service to others? In the 3D matrix, it's about completely self-sacrificing and taking care of others to the point where you are miserable, but others are taken care of, but not you. And in the spiritual matrix, it's like, I need to be in prayer. I need to be a medicine woman. I need to be this kind of coach, 6 to 7 figure coach, like whatever it is, it's like, I need to be a tantrika. I need to be working with the earth every day. Like none of those things are bad, but the reality is what it actually means to be of capital S service is to be living your authentic truth and your gifts so unabashedly and so purely and so wholeheartedly that you bring light into this world because you're just being yourself. You're just accepting the mission. And that could be somebody who is like in a traditional service oriented role, like a doctor or a healer or a chef, or a chef even. Like, wow, that's actually kind of like, that's interesting that that's the one that's coming through. It doesn't feel like that would be a service related mission, but like if you love nourishing people and it brings you the most joy, and that's your highest truth, is to like create and feed people and watch them feel joy when they eat your food because of all the love you're pouring into it, because you love what you do, even if it's hard work, then you're being of service and you're accepting the mission. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what it looks like. You don't have to be a yogi to accept the mission. You don't have to be, you know, you don't have to be a medicine musician to accept the mission. If that's your truth and you're in that, then perfect. But like, we need people of all passions and all, geniuses, you know, to be in their purpose fully and completely for this world to really rise from the rubbled ashes of what we think it's supposed to be.
Yeah, completely. I think it's really beautiful you've spoken to this idea of like what we think it's supposed to be, right? The Also because we do this with purpose around like thinking that it's a job too. Like I think we have our sacred work in this world and we hold medicine and we've got to bring it through. But I know that for quite a while I thought that my purpose was going to be my job. And actually over the years, one of the things that I've recognized time and time again, so many layers, is I I I can't even find my purpose. It can only be revealed. And it is it is up to life itself and the orchestration. This is why everything we keep talking about around surrender and connecting to the divine is so important, because you have to have faith in that in order to make it through this journey eventually. The It is up to the orchestration, it is up to life to work us and prepare us and strip us of the things that we are not meant to carry forwards, the patterns, belief systems, ideas of who we are, the identities, all of that. Life has to work us into being ready to be the vessel, the vehicle for what the mission is, so that we can then choose it from an empowered place in the right moment. Part of my learning journey was really focusing on my impact and my purpose outside of my work first. I didn't, right at the beginning, it was like it was all about as you were speaking to the service and the being the spiritual one or being the intuitive and all of that. And like that was where I was imagining all of my purposefulness was going to exist. And at a certain point, I was like, oh, actually, I want to feel like I am my purpose and I can make an impact in my daily life first with my family, with friends, with the people I'm in contact with consistently in my community. It's like, what is the like I think we need those foundations. I think if we go looking for it all through the sacred work, it's not balanced. And I had to learn that probably the hard way. But I like the hard way, apparently. But that learning was really, really powerful. And I'd say it's a really beautiful step early on is to go, okay, can I create impact? And just in being who I am, right? The rest of life is a much less pressured place and space to learn to feel the purpose and fulfillment and impact, positive impact, and being who you are, being the authentic self, serving at the highest capacity in the world simply by being authentic. Like our relationships and friendships and family life, or, wherever your interactions are a really good place to feel that first before going into the sacred work. And I think a lot of, or at the same time, right? It doesn't have to be separate. Like everyone's journey is going to look different ways. But in my experience, if I could go back and write a like perfect set step list of how to do this differently than I would have done it, I'd probably say like I was trying to, jump to sacred work, sacred everything else, but without this foundation of real solid like community, really solid friendships, really solidly feeling like I was even wanted actually in other people's lives, in friends' lives. I didn't feel like I was necessarily liked. I didn't realize that people would actually want to spend time with me. Like I uncovered all these beliefs that I was just being tolerated and things like this. Like really like icky, icky stuff to uncover. So going through that and creating this base, this foundation of like, okay, in my physical life, in my immediate circles, in my immediate relationships and connections, I actually know what impact I have there. And that's really beautiful. But I'm like, I know what people will remember and I know what will come from there. And so then now, like, because that is a safe foundation, especially if we're going into sacred work and we're talking about things where the world is like a little bit like, what are you on? What are you doing exactly? Like we need that sanctuary space of knowing we're safe, knowing we're held, knowing we're liked and loved, and we're going to be okay. And we have these bonds and these people to come back to. And quite often, not everyone, but a lot of people who jump into the spiritual realms and all of this, it's because we're trying to get away from or find something different than, or we've struggled in those friendships, those relationships traditionally in our life experiences. So we've tried to move into something else and find community in the spiritual community, all of that in self-development and in purpose work and all of this. And so at some point, I think we have to either build the foundation first or go back around and be like, oh, yeah, okay, I've got to put some foundation stones in that I can be held by as I grow, as I expand, as I step more and more into um, more potential, right? Into bigger expansions, into bigger visions of what is possible. Otherwise, we're like up here and wobbly, and like there's nothing underneath to catch us in that. Okay, I feel like I've that quite enough for this moment. Thank you.
I always appreciate there's a moment where I'll do it too. I'm just like speaking and I'm like, okay, I'm still speaking now. Oh crap, I'm still speaking and I'm still speaking. So you're fine. You're perfect. That was important because it comes back to this piece of safety. And I think and this is where, the fear comes in. If we don't feel safe, we don't have solid enough foundations in our own physicality and in our friendships, in our home, in our communities, and wherever we are, then of course we're not going to feel safe with the external world because what we've been shown is that en masse, people who speak their truth, capital T truth, and live in their true authenticity, there is some form of rejection. All right, there's whatever that means. I mean, that can mean a lot of different things. You can look at it from a religious context when it comes to, Yeshua being nailed on the cross for speaking his truth, Martin Luther King Jr. being assassinated. You can look at it from, even in Hollywood, right? Like so and so becomes too popular and all of a sudden nobody likes them. And like they're really hated now, and it's so there's a piece of it that, and then there's also the corruption piece too, where if you start playing the game at a certain level, you will be given an opportunity by the powers that be who run the world. And I know this is going to start sounding like conspiracy theory territory. And if you're not into that, that's fine. But the reality is, like, there's a lot of evidence pointing in directions that there are certain families and certain occultist traditions that do run the world. And they worship something that is not pure. And to be offered that in exchange for basically like you'll be canceled otherwise, that there is that narrative that also exists. So I know a lot of beautiful star seeds who are afraid of accepting the mission because it literally means accepting death, accepting physical death. And then you can't do the mission. So then you get put into this kind of rock and a hard place for like, do I do the thing and possibly die sooner than I want to? Or do I not do the thing or kind of do the thing and live a longer life? But like that also are belief systems that we can shatter. What if this is a new time in the world that we've ever lived in? Because hint, hint, it is. And what if you can accept the mission and do it as brightly and as boldly as feels true for you? And you get to live a beautiful, abundant, full-bodied life. Full-bodied meaning it's everything. It's umami, right? It's sweet, it's sour, it's salty, it's taking you into the highs and into the lows. But like, what if you just learn how to ride the wave of all of that and be good with all of it? And that's also enough. So there is this necessary home-based foundational structure that's needed to be built. And this is where, for me, like sovereignty really comes in, right? How can you build home foundations within your physical vessel, your emotional vessel first? And then it's not necessarily you have to do that first. I'm always doing that. I've been doing that in tandem for this whole spiritual awakening journey. I've been doing that within myself, but then it's also been, as I've been doing it more in myself, it has taken on reflection in my outer realities with my friends, with my home, with my finances. Like things are like, as long as I come into this space of wholeness and self and safety, resourcefulness, full-hearted faith, like the foundation outside of me also starts to concretize and materialize to the point where it's like, all right, well, even if I do get rejected by the mainstream, first of all, that might not be my audience, no problem. But secondly, I will be here for the people who I'm here for. And if there's ever a moment where it feels like it's so vulnerable, so raw to be seen or witnessed by, others in this way, I have my home base, my people, myself, my tools. I have my connection to the divine. I have my connection to the earth. This is where sacred union comes in. I have all of these pieces now where I'm in such a space of wholeness of self that I can survive whatever external storms befall me because I can't control that, right? This is also part of the creation process, right? We get the divine channeling, spirit move, we put the creation out into the world. We cannot control how the creation is received. What we can control is how we show up in it. And once we learn how to feel safe in ourselves, we can then start to flow more, right? We can flow with the reality and we have our foundations. And for those of us who've been on this path for a while, we've probably been through a crumbling of our external reality multiple times to the point where it's kind of like, okay, just another Tuesday. Well, this sucks, but I can make it through. Fine, I'll do it. Like I can't tell you how many friends and potential love interests and even family members, mentors who have fallen away from my external reality as I've been on this path, and it's felt like death to lose that foundation, and I've survived it. I trust fully now. It doesn't mean I don't experience grief when things like that happen, right? If a good friend, a good sister or brother falls away from my external reality and it's different now, there's grief there and I know it. But I also trust that if they're meant to come back into my field, they will. And if they're not, it creates spaciousness for somebody else who's more aligned to come in, right? So that's the faith, the faith in the entire process. That's part of this whole accepting of the mission. And so now it's just about really, truly having full-hearted faith in the mission itself and being it and embodying it. All right, I have full faith that if I choose the thing that feels so good in my body, so pleasurable, so intense, so on purpose, that it all is going to work out for me every time.
Mm. I love previous just earlier there where you were speaking to yeah, like being afraid of power, right? And it's linked to what you were just sharing at the end there also is like how much can you hold in your body? How much capacity do we have for that? And I remember writing about this a long time ago because I was kind of playing in that realm of like, okay, I recognize I'm quite scared of my own power. I'm scared of how people will react to that. I'm scared of how people will judge that, how people will pull that down. And I ended up writing this whole piece somewhere that's existing in the ether about how the biggest lie we've ever been sold is that power corrupts. That's what we have believed it to be, right? Like as you said, like we see, people get put on a pedestal and torn down, or people get into positions of power and they misuse it, right? These are the tests and trials that we go through. But it is a lie that it is power that corrupts. I think that is so fucking key for people to understand and know is power is not what corrupts. If you are aligned with source, you're a good human. Generally, like you don't have to be perfect, but like you're a good-hearted human, your intentions are good. And you are continuing to grow in self-awareness and understanding the pitfalls and understanding where the traps are and the things. It's not power itself that corrupts. It is the choice and the mind and those moments where we have a choice, where we go, okay, am I going down this path or that path? Am I going to choose the selfish, out of integrity, whatever it is thing, the manipulative thing, the shadowy thing, the thing that would require me to sell out my values, the thing that would require me to step out of what I believe is in integrity? Am I going to take this shortcut or like, step on top of somebody else in order to get to serve myself? Am I going to put my individual pride, greed, whatever it is ahead of other people? Am I going to tear somebody down for that? Or am I going to choose the path of what is an integrity in my body? What is an integrity in my heart? What is an integrity in my mind? That keeps me in congruence and coherence. So this lie that we've been told about power, it's like it isn't power itself. It's what people do with it, right? And if you're a good-hearted human being, if you have good intentions, you're not going to be this is why our foundations are so important, right? People who also like they'll love us and hold us when shit goes wrong, but like they're also going to be the ones to call us out and be like, hey, there's the blind spot. This is why we don't do this journey alone. We do it with mentorship, we do it with support, we do it with friends who know us really well, who we can, are willing to be called out or called in by with love. We have people around us who we know are going to tell us the truth, not what we want to hear. Because hearing what we want to hear is a real, and this is where power does corrupt, right? It's like you grow in power and grow in power and grow in power. We have to look at like um, you know, Weinstein and the Hollywood things and all of that kind of stuff, where it's like, oh, this much power will, people think that proximity to that is gonna, imbue them with some sort of status power, whatever it is. And so they're willing to sell out their values for this. It's not the power itself, it's what people do with that, how they use that. So it's just noticing these things and having people around you who are always going to be willing to be like, excuse me, that thing that you're doing there, how are we feeling that?
Well, exactly. Well, that's the piece about I love, first of all, I love that. It's not the power itself because power is neither holds no um charge of being good or bad. Good or bad doesn't exist. Things just are. So it's a reframe of that, and that's really powerful because it's like, right, there is benevolence in this world. There's malevolence in this world. And it's always the choice of which road you're going to take, right? Because power is power is power. That's just it. The sun is just the sun. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's too much sun and sometimes it's not enough and sometimes it's just right. But all of that is going to be incredibly subjective based on what is receiving that sunshine. It doesn't make the sun good or bad. It just makes it what it is, you know? So we get to step into our fullness and capacity when it comes to owning and choosing our power. And then, yeah, what do we do with it? And capital T truth is very, very, very challenging to hear in my experience. Now it's less so. It doesn't make it comfortable always, but I've been able to learn how to receive capital T truth. And I chose the lesson of receiving it from very, very potent and very strong brothers, men in my life who really truly wield that Merlin magician like wand of truth. And I say the wand because it's much more versatile than a sword. It's usually truth is usually like symbolically affiliated with the sword of truth, and that's not untrue. What's more true is that a man who's really fully in his power actually is a Merlin magician and holds the wand of truth because the wand can become anything. And that's a soft that allows for the masculine to be much more in a soft space rather than constantly battling because the sword divides, the wand can bring together, right? So, but I chose a very challenging path of working with men who wield very potent wands of truth. And I don't mean that in any kind of euphemistic sexual way. I mean that in like with their words, were very, and like with how they perceive reality are so exact that like it's deeply penetrative. And that is what the masculine does. The masculine penetrates, right? You know, and you can look at that as a very physical act of the penetrative, like sexual act, but then on a very like uh metaphorical way, the masculine wields through penetrative truth. And whether it's coming from a man or a woman, it actually just doesn't matter. I know plenty of women who are like very penetrative in their truth because they're very connected to that part of them, that masculine part of themselves. And most people will do anything to avoid truth, put on blinders, make up excuses, like choose victimization, sabotage, you know, tantrums, like whatever it is. They'll choose literally anything but the thing. And I think we touched on this in the last episode as well, is it's like in all of the major religions and philosophies, The most challenging lessons are often the simplest truths. And it's the same thing with accepting the mission. That doesn't make it special. Of course, it's the hardest fucking thing to do. It's so simple. It's so fucking simple. Why would I choose that when I've been taught to believe it has to be hard, when I've been taught I have to be to martyr myself, when I've taught I've had to self-sacrifice? Why? Why do I have to do that? Whose reality am I accepting? Is that my reality? I reject that. And even this morning, as I was like, I was communing with spirit, I just said, you know what? I'm really fucking bored with the narrative I've been living. I'm actually bored. It's not good enough. And it's not because it's not good enough in that like I'm ungrateful. I cried pretty much all day for the past maybe 2 weeks, if I'm being really honest, in deep gratitude for all that I have, for the deep like abundance of love, of friendship, of resources, of talent, of doesn't matter what it is, just like the deep love. But I'm also like, you know what? It's just fucking boring. And again, there's no greater sin to me than being or receiving or just stagnant boredom. Why do I keep choosing this reality when there's a better one on offer, but I'm just avoiding it like the plague? Stop avoiding it like the plague. Just do it. And it's a reframe of that too, because with my mission, it's like, do I have to always be seen? And this is, I think, an interesting piece as well. And I feel like you touched on this slightly before, but it's like it doesn't have to be the job, quote unquote, right? That makes the money that brings it in. And we get that conflated. Although for me, I know that it is the only thing I know how to do now in terms of like this is what it's going to be because I just be the thing. And with that being said, it's like that what is that phrase? Very famous phrase, like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it make sound or something to that effect? It's the same thing with the purpose. It's like if I do the thing that is my mission, but no one receives it, no one sees it, no one experiences me doing the thing, then does it count? And the truth is that yes, it counts. It counts because God is always witnessing, Spirit is always witnessing, Source is always witnessing, and the energy is still being moved in that direction of purpose. And actually, Liz Gilbert, I feel like, touches on this in her book, Big Magic, because it's all about art and creation energy in that book that she speaks to. And she goes, a lot of us have been trained at very early ages that if we cannot commodify a passion or a hobby, then we shouldn't do it anymore. And I think she uses the example of ice skating, like if somebody, like a little girl is like excited to ice skate, and she loves doing it. She does it all the way through high school and college, but she's not good enough to become a professional athlete. So she just all of a sudden at like 20 years old, she just stops. But now the joy is gone. And it's like, that's not the point. Or like a man, she talks about another artist who he whittles, I think. He like makes little things out of wood and then he doesn't sell them. He literally just puts them in the river and they float on. And it's like, does that mean he's not in his purpose? Because that just brings him tremendous joy. And I think that's the other piece too that's also important to speak to is you're in your purpose because it leaves you feeling full. There's a level of satisfaction and joy and pleasure in accepting the mission and being the thing and being on purpose that when you're in your wholeness, and for those of you who've been listening to the podcast or following me for a long time, I constantly harp on the pun of the word wholeness because it's spelled in English WHOLENESS, but it's like the holiness. If you like break it down, it's really our wholeness is our holiness. So when you fill yourself to the brim with all that brings you joy and purpose and fulfillment, you're always moving from a space through the world that's a full cup. You're never not full. And now you can give and give and give because you receive so much by being in alignment with that purpose. And that's really, truly a gift.
It's beautiful. Unfortunately, what's coming to mind is don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't make money doing what you want to do. Because I saw on Instagram today a lady who makes people's semen into jewelry.
I've seen that myself. There's something for everyone.
There's
Everybody has a
something for
purpose.
everybody. It's not for me, that particular avenue, but literally,
I'll
like there
pass.
is genius and people enjoy what they're doing and create purpose and meaning and all of the things. So next time you question yourself saying, I can't make any money doing that, or anyone else says there's no money in what you're thinking about, fuck them. Do what you want to do. Do
Not
you.
possible.
It'll be great. It'll be
You know,
fine. It's totally
I
possible.
have I have to interject because there's something that's been happening now for basically the entirety of me just talking on that last little rant that I need to speak to. And it's so important that you hear this because it's connected to everything we're doing. I have a dragonfly that has been sitting on a cord the entire time that I've been speaking. And it sat there and landed when you finished talking just before I did. And that dragonfly metaphor is so prominent. We've spoken to this in the last episode, I think, when we were talking about the 55th gene key and everything. And it's continuously showing itself over and over and over again, even before we started today. And it's literally it's stationary. It's not going anywhere right now. I'm just speaking to that
It's
because
so
what a
wild.
beautiful symbol.
I think it's a beautiful thing to even because it has been so present anyway, particularly since you and I have been speaking to the Fey realms and all of that, like as if boom, all the dragonflies came in. But when we recorded the last episode, I then went to the beach and then a dragonfly sat on my foot for ages. And I was like, oh, you're doing that. And then you went to the fire ceremony and walked in, and there's a giant dragonfly sculpture just right there. And there's just been dragonfly after dragonfly, and then pulling. It was like, should we pull a card for this episode? And then, of course, I pulled out. I was looking for a deck, couldn't find the deck. Pulled out a little book instead, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna flip through that and pull something. But stuck to the book was the Sacred Geometry June Companions, which has dragonflies all over it. And I opened to a page, and it's the dragonfly. You're reading the dragonfly thing. Like at this point, like you know, it's like a sign here, sign. Would you like a sign here, sign? Um,
Yeah.
I'm like expecting
It's
to get hit in the face by a giant dragonfly any day now because they're
Well, first of all,
all
it
over the
did
place.
the dragonfly finally left. I guess it didn't like being spoken about. It was like, I'm done now. I've done my piece here. I just wanted you to talk about me now. So it's
Yeah,
gone now, which is hilarious. It was like there for like 15 minutes and then it finally left now, hilarious. But,
it's so
but
beautiful.
this piece about dragonfly and purpose, it's still deeply resonant because we talked about the 55th gene key is connected to the dragonfly and transmuting from the Homo
Yeah,
sapien into what Richard Rudd describes as the Homo sanctum or sanctus or whatever it is, but like the holy human. And for those of us who are going through this massive transformation right now of being the way that we've always been and never known any other way into living on purpose, living in authenticity, living in devotion, living in connection with source, you know, it's it's been a journey. It's been so hard. And the path of the dragonfly in terms of biologically, you were reading in that passage earlier, it goes from being a little egg, like for years, to suddenly being the nymph, to suddenly just being, it's like kind of a really intense and dramatic and drastic change. And I started giggling
mm,
to myself as you were reading it this morning because I was like, my God, that's literally what it's felt like. It's felt like I've been a little embryonic, little tiny that has no form and is literally confused about everything. And I'm like, when does this end? When can I be fully formed and on purpose? And in more recent days, like like even in the last just 24, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now we're the thing. And I'm like, how did we get here? Where is the,
Mm,
the gentle transition phase? But like it's never that. Even with butterflies, they disintegrate into goo and then suddenly they emerge, And it's kind of like, oh, I've been in
mm,
goo phase for a real fucking long time. Even just bringing in the butterfly, because the butterfly and the dragonfly, they're different, but like they're part of the same Fey realm family. And they've been everywhere. Like I even call the name of my home where I live the Fairy Glen because I've never had more butterflies and dragonflies and praying manti and crickets
mm,
than ever from where I've lived. And I've lived in a lot of places, and sometimes it's different medicine. Like the last one, it was bees and lizards, and the place before that, it was just lizards, So it's just like whatever it is, whatever the medicine is. But like it's it's just been, yeah, butterflies and dragonflies specifically. It's just like from one goo-like, egg-like, in the dark, infantile space into literally just being the thing. And it's just like, it's a little shocking to the system. And I feel like that's where we're at collectively. You and I have also been in that on a very personal level. So, like the microcosmic reality of a
mm,
macrocosmic truth. But it's like, it's been jolting. It's been jarring. It's been really intense because it's like all of a sudden, here we are. Now it's time. And it's like, when were we given? When were we supposed to be off to the races? Like, and the race is over. What the hell? What's going on? And that's how it feels. But so we're finally, I know for me at least, acceptance and of reality, of the mission that I'm like, all right, now it's settling. Now it's becoming embodied, and I can be much more empowered in choosing it and just flowing, like that imagery of the nymph, whether it's
mm,
the dragonfly nymph or the mythological nymph, the mermaid, whatever it is, now I can just be in the flow of it.
mm. So beautiful. The as the dragonfly was coming through there with the nymph and this like emergence, right? This rapid, like, here we are, be the thing. The dragonfly symbolism was really pulling me back to, and I feel the thread to pull into this is like the time in the waters beforehand. And it's like it feels so sudden to us now, but the time in the waters are so important. This is like, the lotus in the mud as well. There's these, we've got these symbols, we've got these understandings so deeply ingrained archetypally in humanity and nature and everything that we have on this planet. But the time in the waters being, and it's, you'll love this because it's like a language thing. Is at the very beginning of the call, I wrote this down because I was like, oh yeah, this came through years ago and I haven't thought about it since. But and it came through someone else, it came through a friend, but I can't even remember what circumstance. So anyway, um, that time in the waters is what forms us. It is what builds everything within us, even if we don't notice, because we can't see the results because we're swimming around in the waters. And we're in the void. And I really want to bring this through for people who are like, where is my purpose? I just want to be the thing. I want to be right there. Avoidance is a void dance. You are dancing in the void because you're not yet fully formed. You're not out of the waters, right? My journey has been looking like, oh, I'll go over here. Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go over here. Is it this thing or is it this thing? And if I had had the consciousness, and this is why we bring it in, is so that future generations can have these conscious codes. When we're in the void, it's like we swim in and out of the thing and we go over here and we go over there and we're through all of that. We're going to think we're out of it so many times. We're going to think we've popped through, but we're just in another part of the void. We're just in another experience of the void. And we got to just keep swimming and circling in that void, because within that are all of the experiences, within the waters of that void are all of the experiences, all of the growth opportunities, the lessons, the spaces opened up even within us by divinity, forged in the fires of life, or washed clean in the waters of life. This is what the planet is in right now. It's in the void dance, being purged and cleansed, purified by the fires of the sun, of the actual fires, all of the things, the heat, the rage, all of this, the fire is cleansing and purifying everything on the planet, as are the waters. We've got the cyclones and the hurricanes and the floods and the riverbanks bursting and all of this, and we're being flooded with consciousness as glaciers melt. I heard this from a beautiful medicine woman. She said, as the glaciers melt, ancient memory is leaking into our water systems. Ancient codes are coming through. It doesn't necessarily make ice melting, a great thing for everybody in the short term, but it is what's happening. It's really ancient earth memory is coming in. So our consciousness is going through this flooding and purifying and flooding and purifying and flooding and purifying. So we're in that void right now. And then at some point, we get propelled out of the other side. So the avoidance, when we're not accepting the mission, when we're not choosing the mission, when we're not choosing the simplest thing, when we're not actively leaning in to the simplest thing, I know I upset myself and I was so angry with myself. And I've been frustrated and ashamed and embarrassed so many times. Every time I come back into, oh my God, I knew this. I knew this all along. Why couldn't I just stick to it? Why couldn't I just stay with it? Why couldn't I just be like normal people and just pick a thing and do it? I didn't know I was in the void. I didn't know I was in the waters. I didn't know I was in the fires because I thought I should be out of it because I'm looking at it from a human lens. Spiritually, I'm in the avoid dance. Like I'm in the dance in the void. So whenever, if ever, you come up against that point where you're like, why couldn't I just do the thing? Why is this so hard? Why is it all happening? Why do I keep avoiding the thing? So at a certain point, like you keep seeing it. I've been seeing what has been coming through very clearly for like a year and a half, for always. Now I look back, but for a year and a half, it's been actually obvious, like really, really, like it's there all ready to go, and I'm like, why do I keep avoiding this? Why do I keep avoiding this? Well, because I was in the dance, in the void. I needed to flush out any lingering victim consciousness options that I had. I needed to make them no longer an option. I didn't get to choose the collapse, fated, lower frequency, whatever it is, thing. I had to flush it all out. I had to try it all out so that I knew there was nothing else. Now, some people might be able to just actively, consciously go and choose and do the thing that is obvious and work their void dance out through the process of just doing that. If you want to succeed on a human level, make money, do the thing, just pick the obvious thing and trust that you're going to learn along the journey. I did not do that. I thought I needed to do all of the dancing and all of the flipping and all of the things. And that's okay. That was my journey. Not everyone necessarily has to go and do that. And maybe can't, I don't think I could have done it differently had I tried, had I even known the thing. It's just, it is what it is, what it is. And when you, like, I was even ready to do it, and then still I had to go and try one last little fucking thing with this program to flush out the last of the options. And what is very, very funny to me, and I was thinking about this earlier as well, but what's very funny is that the part of my bouncing in and out of this mission is that it, or in the sacred work context anyway, is that it is the most human looking aspect. Like this coming home to the beloved divine program, right? Wow, spiritual, super, oh, like it's, oh, that must be because that's where we're going, right? New earth, like really spiritual. Let's do the things. The mission now is hilarious because it looks like I could hear this so deep in my being. It was like play the game. You know, you were talking about the play the game earlier. Play the game, be so deeply human. And it looks like play the game, build a brand, do the marketing, structure the business properly, which I've been like la, 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 away from for a while. I thought, and this was one of the last vestiges of the lingering patterns that were keeping me stuck that I had to clear out in this void dancingness, was again like the should be's, right? Oh, if we're going to New Earth and we're all going to ascend into this Christ consciousness, then surely I couldn't possibly be doing something that looks as obvious as a really well structured business that makes lots of money and uses really proper marketing and sales and all of these things. I'm like, but won't we be ascending beyond these things? Like, and it looks the most human. And I'm so excited about it finally, right? To pop out and be like, oh, mission accepted. Okay, we can go now. And I'm just going to be a human. And it feels surprisingly exciting. I didn't expect
Amazing.
it to. So it is an
Hmm.
avoid dance.
Well, I'm obsessed with that and I'm totally stealing that, but I will always give you credit for it. So obsessed, love it. And I think the other piece too is, yeah, there's no shame in being in the void dance because it's a necessary part of the process, right? Again, you're trying different things on. And some people, like you said, can just do the thing right away. And I actually do believe that, like, starting with Gen Z and probably with Gen Alpha coming up, we'll see it as well in future generations. They're going to be able to do it faster. They're going to be able to do it faster. But those of us who are part of the millennial generation, our generation, we're the bridge. We're the bridge from the old to the new. You can look at that on a very literal level. Like, we both had floppy disks and, iTunes, like we know what that is. Whereas like Gen Z is like, why did you 3D print the save icon? And you're like, what? And like literally I had students who would like ask that
No
question.
way. That even took
Yeah,
me a minute to like register.
right. And you're like, what? So it's just like it's that level. So there are future generations that are going to be able to get there faster. Now they have different mud for their little low tide beings, their little lotus beings than we do. But the millennials, we're meant to swim in it. We're meant to really truly find and live the bridging aspect because there it like whew, my angel wings are just crazy tingling right now because there is an old regime and realm of being and there is a new one and we're going to bring people along. We have to be able to do that. Gen Z does not know how to understand boomers at all. They have no idea how to do that. But we can do that. We're like, let's translate it for you. Like we get it. We know how to play the game. So like when it comes to the transformational process, and this quote unquote spiritual awakening, whatever, it's just, I kind of hate calling it a spiritual awakening. It's just awakening. It's just an awakening, right? It's just realizing that you're God made flesh, but it's fine. We can call it a spiritual awakening still. It's not that. But I'm sorry, I got off topic. Anyways, it's part of that as well. I think this is what I was trying to say. It's all connected. And yeah, I love that and this goes back to one of our first episodes where your divinity is your humanity. You're talking about like the most, you're like the thing that is the mission is the most human looking of all of them. And you're like, how could that be? It's because there is divinity in that too. It is divine. It's not divine. It's
Mm.
just that we've been shown it from such a commodified way, or just such a disempowered way, or such a forced way, such an inauthentic way, that why would you think anything else? Of course. And then for my own journey, it's like, for me, it's not so much about it looking human, although in some ways it's the most tangible thing that I do. But at the same time, my voice and accepting the mission of speaking it into reality, of sharing at a level that feels so raw and so vulnerable. And it's accepting the mission of really of being who I am, because that's my path. And I know that now, right? Accepting the mission. And I think that before we close this, you and I have to actually speak to what our missions are, because I think that's part of the claiming and choosing it. So I'm just going to say that. And I'm not saying we're trying to close it, but I do feel that it's coming. But it's just like, I know I'm meant to be. All right, I guess I'm saying it now. I'm like, I'm not going to say it till later. I'm saying it now. The mission is I'm an artist. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. And what I speak to is the fairy realms. What I speak to is accepting the missions. What I speak to is my own acceptance of sovereignty and sacred union. And it's activating that through my artistry, through my beingness. So this is what has been so confronting for me, because one, I've had to learn those lessons. It's been the biggest medicine of my life. I've had the hardest, most challenging times around sovereignty, around sacred union, both internal sacred union and external sacred union in like a romantic capacity. I've had the biggest challenges in these areas, right? Anytime I get on track, there's always a man that wants to come in and fuck it up. Damn it. That's how it's always been, but not anymore. Because I'm in a space of sovereignty. I've done the things and I know what my dharmic truth is. I know what the path is. And for me to speak to the things that I have now embodied, that I have learned, and to see the world through the poetic, the mythopoetic lens that I do, and share that as I do, is the mission. That it just is. And it's been challenging and deeply confronting, because it requires me to be really discerning with what I am sharing, why I am sharing it, how I am sharing it, and being so solid in my own foundation of self and foundation of beloveds around me, to know that I am safe to be this raw and vulnerable and seen, to share from strength and power, from my authentic voice, no one else's. But this is why the lessons have been so hard. This is why I've been in that avoidance for so long, because it's so painful. It's actually like I'm almost about to cry. It's painfully obvious that this is the path. It's painfully obvious. And I have done nothing but avoid it. Nothing but avoid it. And at the exact same time, I've been doing it the inner time, right? I have in the past 5 years, 5 years, I have started writing, I think, 5 different books. And it always comes back to writing for me specifically, right? I have started writing 5 different books. I started blurbing it off to a friend recently, and he was just like, "Another book?" I go, "Yeah, and I have 3 more book ideas that came through like 3 months ago, but they're not right. Like it's not the time yet." And but then, it's so fascinating because it was like for me, I started accepting the mission. I like dipped my toe into it like last year when I left Bali, and I went on this pilgrimage, like very whirlwind adventure to learn more lessons in the US and in the UK. And I started writing, and I really started like deepening my relationship with writing, realizing I had actually written a lot over the past 5 years. I'm like, what have I been doing with my life for the past 5 years? I went back into all my Google Drives, all my iPhone notes, everything. And I go, oh my God, I've prolifically been writing the past 5 years. I just haven't necessarily shared it or created a structure around it or, published any of it yet. But it's like I've already been living my purpose for the past 5 years. It's now accepting the mission that just is. That's been the hardest fucking thing. And I have to say, like, the acceptance of that mission really dropped in for me. It's been coming through in the past week. I've been getting the signiest of signs, like absolutely stupid. Like my guides are just laughing at me, being like, is she this dense? Is she actually this dense? Like it's been like that level of signs. But then like yesterday, I feel like something else landed where I just decided, you know what? It doesn't matter if people like it or see it or don't like it or not. This is my reality. This is my truth. This is my medicine, and I'm going to own it now. I'm going to stop being a little bitch about it, and I'm going to just do it anyway. Because what I've been doing, circling around it, dancing around it, it's not working anymore. And it gets to be a point where it's just like the dance in the void is, and the swimmingness is, it can be fun. It can be fun for a while. I love a good dance. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a maniac, on the dance floor. I love a good dance. I'm tired. I'm ready for it to just be fun and flowy and gentle. I'm ready to play in it, not go upstream. I'm ready to accept the mission and then dance in the void in a new way, right? More, and we were talking about the mermaid before the call, like that imagery. That's also the bridge, half human, half fish, right? But swimming through the waters more in that capacity as the living mythological flowing bridge between realms, right? The Selkie in Celtic mythology too, right?
I'm
The
just
the
realizing why the mermaids are like just the way you said that, then half human, half fish. I'm just realizing why the mermaid specifically is coming through as such a powerful symbol at the moment. We're going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is the first human sign in the symbology of it. So
Oh,
we're literally going
wow.
from the fish and we're in that overlap period. So from the Kali Yuga, from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which is the water bearer, is the first. It's a massive elevation in consciousness because in the symbol, it's the first one that is a human.
I have never thought of it that way, but that is so painfully obvious.
In my world, we call those moments le deux.
Oh my God, that is so stupid. That like, but it would go from the fish and being in the waters to being the carrier of the water.
Yes. No,
And that's too
beautiful.
is a form of bridge to carry the water from one place to another. Oh my
To
God.
move the consciousness. The water is the consciousness. Water holds consciousness. It is consciousness. It's how we
Well,
move it around the planet.
and it's also bringing up the adage, you don't, what is it? You don't lead a horse to water or something to that fact or something like
You
that.
can
You
lead
don't,
a horse to water. You can't make it drink.
right. But there's something to that as well, where like, where are we bringing the water to? And it's like we can bring all of this consciousness, this wealth of information, this well of information, right, from the spring wells and bring it to others to drink. Some people won't drink, and that's okay. They don't have to, right?
Now,
It's
some
that.
people prefer fluoride in their water, apparently.
Well, that's another episode, but like, yeah. Well, we still probably need to properly devote a whole episode to conspiracy theories, but
Oh,
whatever, maybe
hell yeah.
not.
Hell yeah. For
So, Jess,
sure.
I spoke to my mission. Are there any other questions? Was I clear or was I clear as mud? Was I avoiding anything and even speaking to it that you
No,
think?
that was perfect. Beautiful.
Perfect. Your turn. What is your mission, my love? What are you finally accepting and no longer avoid dancing? For those who
I've
don't
had this
aren't
sign
watching the
here
video,
next to my desk. Oh, yeah, I forgot we also have, well, no, because on Spotify and YouTube we have the video. But anyway, anyone who's not painfully paying attention to every move we make on video, if you're not staring at our beautiful faces for every second, if you dared look away for half a minute, I
you're
have a
really missing out,
sign.
by the way.
You're really missing out. We're amazing. We're stunning. Um, I have a sign that says true leaders don't create more leaders, don't create followers, they create more leaders. So that's, wait, let me read it. True leaders
She's
don't
still avoiding
create
it.
followers, right? They create more leaders. Oh my goodness. That was the literal signia sign that I picked up in a thrift store some time ago when I was literally in one of these places where I was like, oh, that feels really clear. And then I was like, yes, amazing. Let me get this sign and stick it next to my desk and it'll be great. So, an actual sign that I got for this and have received so many since. I feel like I have actually received the email basically from God
I was going
there.
to say that is taking the sign your sign to an actual literal level that I now feel less badly about my sign your signs. Yours is
Right?
even more the duh than mine
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I asked for a sign and I got an actual fucking sign.
Oh my God, it's so
What a
good. It's
meme.
so good. So, yeah, so what does that mean? So, what does that
Yeah.
mean, babe?
So the one thing that I have had a bee in my bonnet about for a really, really long time is the healing arts industry, and I cannot for the life of me get the fuck away from it. And it's always been there. Like I remember really, really early days, I was like, wow, I could see all I just looked outside and I could see a dragonfly flying around again. But of course, the early days, I met all of these incredible, powerful men and women in Singapore and also on travels when I was like beginning to learn about the spiritual path and all of these things. And through the beginning of that, and I was like, I really wish they could see how powerful they are. And I remember that was such a deep catalyzing thought for me and feeling for me was I really wish, particularly the women, I work with both men and women, but at the time it was like I really want them to know. I wish they could see themselves through my eyes. I wish they could see how powerful they are. Of course, total projection, because really like I couldn't see how powerful I was either. So that's been the journey. But the healing arts industry, really in general, I'm like, we are moving into this ancient future. We are moving into this time where and the meek shall inherit the earth. Like the healers at the forefront, like the intuitives, the people who are tapped into spirit, into source. There is meant to be that kind of leadership. We're meant to have spiritual technologies like prayer and vibrational medicine that are already used, but just like we're going to look back and be like, oh my goodness, it's barbaric. Like it's so rudimentary because we know the multidimensional potential of what is held within vibration and all of this, right? So there's got to be a lot more. Like science can't keep up with us. Science cannot even come close. Like, yeah, again, conspiracy theory episode for that one because none of the money's going there, but also just because the entire fact that we think we have to prove something before it is allowed to exist. It's like, no, you have to, it's not, I'll see it, then I believe it. That's science as an approach. I'll see it, then I'll trust it.
And for the highest, most potent, powerful technologies and transformations on this planet and what we can create and be and do that is beyond what our minds can even imagine right now, it requires, I believe it before I see it. It is, I believe it, therefore I will see it. I can already see it, feel it, know it as a frequency within my body, within my being. So those people who hold that wisdom, that knowledge, the healers, the psychics, the seers, the oracles, the creatives, like these are the people who are meant to be in leadership. And so that is the epitome of the work, is to get into leadership. And in the meantime, as a bigger mission, I really hope to drastically inspire change within the healing arts industry. Because at the moment, there's a lot that is keeping practitioners disempowered, but also keeping clients disempowered. And there needs to be a much, much better way forwards. And I know there's a lot of people speaking out about this at the moment. And I also know that my voice gets to be there too, because I have judged and criticized the healing arts industry for a decade. So
And
I'm
doesn't and
well
doesn't just
prepared, but
doesn't
have
just
embodied
get
and
to
walked through all of it and transformed all of it for myself. Just to be clear, it's not based on
I was
judgment.
about to say it's not just about your voice gets to be a part of that. Your voice needs to be heard too with this, right? Because you bring your own unique flavor to it all because you've become embodied in it. So yeah, babe, it's badass what you're doing. We do. We need the healers and the artists, right? Because the art is part of the healing process, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
know even with what I'm speaking to, yes, there's the literal artist of the writer and the speaker and the creator, but it's like life artistry. Like that's the
Mm.
main gig, right? And for me at least too, where it's like I do work with people because who also want to become artists of their own life, but that's part of the healing modality, right? And so we're moving into this new age where we need the healers, we need the artists, we need the people who have been kind of on the fringes of society, living more authentic, deeply ancient human ways, right? Like communing with the earth is ancient, communing with God is ancient, creating art is ancient. We need the people who are doing that to step up into leadership. So that is because it's a new time. It's the time of the water bear, not just the little nymph-like thing in the water. It's both now.
Yeah. It's the transition time. So yeah, it feels very powerful. And it's beyond even, I know we've talked about this, but beyond even just the accepting of the mission. There's so much acceptance, right? Again and again and again and again and again. But the final fucking straw was like, oh no, it's not about just, I can accept until the cows come home and I will keep doing that. And the exact correct moment, I also got so bored of myself. I was like, I'm so dead. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, maybe I just quit all of this. Like, this is my brain yesterday. I was like, maybe I just shouldn't try and do any of this. I should just go get a job. Like, I'm done. Right before that, the straw that breaks the camel's back, it's that final piece. It's like, oh, I have to choose it. Go beyond accepting the mission. Just choose it. And we can have that power of choice anytime. I liked the avoid dance because I thought there was a thing that was magically meant for me, that was going to be the level. We can just choose and then keep choosing every day and ignore everything that our brain tells us. Well, easier said than done,
Well, I
as
mean,
we
I think
well
in
know.
that this it also comes back to this idea of like what is the easy path? Is it easier to continue swimming in the avoidance, or is it easier just to choose the mission? And I think, everybody's on a different in a different place on their in their healing journey and their awakening journey. And there's a part of it like I can relate this back to when I was really, really shifting from my old life, my former life, into what it is I have now. And I could not, it in my 3D reality, I could not live as I was anymore. I felt like I was dying, right? So there was no other choice. And I knew it was going to be a hard transition from one way of being to the next, but I chose it anyway. And now I'm like, I wouldn't change a damn thing because it's actually easier to do the thing that seems harder. Life is so much more in flow. So when we approach, like apply it to what you're a different space where it's like, do I want to keep doing the thing that feels like boredom and death because of the stagnation energy around it, the avoidance of it? Or am I going to choose the thing that seems harder, but I also know is easier, but like is also really scary? And am I just going to choose it and accept it? Because my guess is the minute that we get off this call and we continue to choose the mission that we have accepted, it's actually going to be really fucking easeful. Doesn't mean there's not challenges along the way, of course. That's just life. That's it's not meant to actually be easy at that level. Then we'd just be bored. And not in a creative way again, but it's just challenge creates the tension for ascension.
Mm.
So we need that to create and see what we're made of. We've spoken to that on some episode as well. I can't remember which one it was, but like we need the obstacle to see what we're made of so we can rise to the occasion. And this is just another one of those moments on the hero's journey within the crazy, sacred geometry of the heroine's journey of what we're experiencing.
Mm.
There, I connected it. I guess it was that episode. Anyways,
Yeah,
my love, I'm just so
beautiful.
thrilled. I'm thrilled for you. I'm thrilled for me. I'm thrilled for each and every being who's been listening still and is on this path. And if you all of a sudden have seen the signier signs, maybe been given literal signs like Jess, you know, uh, like share your Hogwarts letters with us. What is your Hogwarts letter? What is it? What are you accepting the mission of? Because it's like there's this is it, baby. There's no other way. God's not allowing us to do anything else. Truly,
It's time.
it's time.
Very excited for us all.
Indeed.
Let's do it. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. Woo!
Beautiful.
Anyways, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you to all listening. Thank you, my love, as always. Just such a pleasure. And we'll see you on the
So
next
fun.
episode.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, love. See
Yeah.
everybody next time.
Ciao.
Bye.